when I think about then this question of why do we feel the need to have to have God's permission on every little
Yeah, that's
thing,
good. I'm glad you circled back to that.
bring it back to that question. I think about this generation, and I've really have prayed hard about this question in terms of like why is it that this cohort more than any other cohort seems to struggle the most with decision making? Why is there so much anxiety when it comes to this particular group of young people, and what makes it difficult? And so, here's my speculations that I
Hmm.
would say. The first is that in a culture of abundance, there's just so many options, and we know this through consumer science research that too many choices. It's the paradox of choice. If you have too many choices, you're not going to make a choice. And so when it comes to the study that I've seen or heard or read referenced the most is something about jams in the grocery store. And so they did an experiment where you had 26 styles of jam and measured how many people actually came in and picked a jar of jelly versus an aisle that only had 8 jars of jelly. And what's the percentage of people that would pick the type of jelly, versus, with that group versus the other group? And the research shows very clearly that when you had 8 choices, people are more able to make a decision and feel better about the decision that they made. So rather than the people that had too many choices, they struggled to make the decision. Often they would feel whelmed by the choice and would just walk away. Or even if they did make a choice, they would end up second guessing themselves more often about whether or not the choice that they made was in fact the right one because there were other ones. And so in a world of overabundance, think about dating apps, all this stuff when it's like swipe right, swipe left, swipe right, swipe left. There's so many choices that you can commodify people and always feel like there's something better that could be out there that you don't really know. And so
Excellent.
too many choices is one thing that I think really makes it difficult for this cohort because of the
Sure.
abundant age that we live in. The second thing is and I say this with respect, but like the supreme virtues of our day and age are really kind of kindness, I think, in politeness. And while certainly we need gentleness and kindness, there's no doubt about it. But sometimes it comes across as this kind of passivity that I must be, kind of not step on anybody's toes, and I can't really do anything to ruffle feathers. And again, I'm not encouraging belligerence or being a jerk or anything. But what it gets lost sometimes in kindness is a appropriate sense of assertiveness, an appropriate the sense of I need to move forward with this. I need to push this ball forward. I need to take this. I need to move again. Sometimes this can be inappropriate. We're talking about taking the bull by the horns, but sometimes we need to push forward, and we need to step into the dark, and we need to be able to say, okay, I'm going to move forward with this, even if this makes people upset. You think about Nathan the prophet, his discernment then to be able to say, all right, I know what might happen. I might get thrown in the cistern. I might get killed because this is the king, but I'm still going to step forward in doing this because I feel that this is what I need to do. So again, this overabundance of gentleness, of kindness, which again are virtues that I certainly try to extol in my own life and my kids' life. But again, balance coupled with what we've been talking about with courage in terms of stepping forward and having an appropriate sense of assertiveness and belief that you have some say in your life, that you haven't just abdicated agency to everybody and every other thing, that there's some personal responsibility that I'm going to move forward with. And then the last thing that I would say in terms of why I think this generation struggles is they just haven't been given permission to fail. And they haven't been given the opportunities to fail because everything's been taken care of them. And so the downfall of the helicopter parenting, and this is something that Jonathan Haidt has spoken beautifully about in the book, The Coddling of the American Mind, is I think he relays his finger on this, that there hasn't been opportunities because of fear and because of abundance and all sorts of things and constant surveillance and everything else that we have. Kids just haven't had the opportunity to appropriately develop self-confidence. And competence and confidence only comes through trial and error. That's it. That's the only way you can become competent in something. You want to sit down and learn how to play the piano, those first 3 months are going to be awful. No one's going to want to be in the room next to you as you're learning how to play it because it's not going to sound like anything whatsoever. But you have to stick to it, and you got to work on the fingers and work on the notes and get the timing right. And that trial and error as you kind of navigate that is ultimately what leads you to competence. Any skill, that's the way it is. But when we're not given these opportunities to fail in life as a whole, life is a skill, decision-making as a skill, when we're not given the opportunity to make bad decisions because of fear of failure, then we are stuck. We are stuck. And that is why I think that there's so much of this question of I need permission because I'm so afraid to fail. it's okay if you fail. It's actually part of the process. If you failed, that's not a bad thing. Like, you tried it.
Awesome.
You have to give yourself permission to at least try to pursue whatever that thing is that God has in your heart. And even if it fails, there's still a lesson, and there's still something formative that God is trying to do, even in the midst of that supposed failed discernment.